Hello, my dear learners. Welcome to this episode of discussing our notes. My name is Linus Kenywa. You are lecturer at Quast. This morning we are discussing KPS 301, inventory planning. Those who are doing KPS 301, inventory planning. And we want to discuss briefly lesson number 1. That is inventory and decision making processes. So quickly we go to the discussion. We'll keep it brief. About decision making and inventory management, we're saying decision making is one of the most important aspects in a business, and the process of arriving at a decision should be very precise. So basically what we are saying here is in supply chain management, in any organization, decision planning or decision making is important because it either can affect the company's productivity in terms of profit making. Decision making can also decide if the company is going to do more expansions or if it's going to close some of the branches. Decision making is also important because it helps a supply chain organization to find out, for example, how much of stock are they buying or how much stock do they need to buy at any particular time. So it is important, and decision making should be precise. Precise means the decision making managers, they need to be on point. The management need to know exactly why it's focusing on a particular decision, because whatever it is going to adopt, it can either cost the business into profit making or actually declining of the profits. The other statement there talks of the executive teams makes the decisions, but it's not only the executive teams that make the decisions. We have got other middle level managers or lower managers that have got the responsibility of also making smaller decisions. But the overall direction of the supply chain company in terms of inventory management or in terms of inventory planning lies with either the top executive, either the head of procurement, the head of inventory management, or the CEO of the company in collaboration with the procurement and supply chain management team, because they understand where the organization needs to go and how much of inventories they need to be prepared. So the other statement is talking that the decision making team, decision making managers, they need to be professionals. At the same time, they need also to be examining alternative choices. Okay, so as much as we make decisions, sometimes the management can make decisions regarding inventory planning, but after implementation, a few months after implementation, they realized some of the decisions that they implemented are not really working. So nothing is rigid. They have to go back again to the drawing board and ask themselves, what other alternatives do we have? If some decisions are not working, then they have to go back to the drawing board and find out the alternatives that they have and the kind of the choices they can make again, start implementing again afresh, and either they can make a decision of either taking a new route or just staying on the same route, or what they need to improve on. So decision making is a step-by-step approach, and it should be a thoughtful process, in that when we make informed decisions, the impact can actually be very positive. And failure to make informed decisions or good choices, then in the short term or the long term, the organization can actually be making very bad choices, and this is actually going to affect the business. So we have got a few simple steps of making decisions or decision making process. The first step is identify the decision. When you identify the decision, so the first step in making the right decision is recognizing the problem or the opportunity and deciding to address it. This is where an organization finds clearly points out that they have a problem, either of inventory management or either inventory planning, or deciding how many suppliers they are supposed to use, or deciding how much of stock they should be using. So here it's about recognizing that a supply chain organization has a problem and taking measures to address that problem. So determine why this decision will make a difference to your customers and to your fellow employees. So the first step is to identify the decision, and identifying the decision, it's as a result of recognizing that you have a problem, that you have an underlying need that actually needs to be addressed. Addressing this need is important because any business exists either to serve other people, it's either serving the end customers who are the individuals, you and me, or it's either serving other business organizations who are also you can also be the end customers, business to business. Okay, so the first step is to identify that you have a problem, that is identify the decision. Number two, you need to gather the information. This information should be based on facts. Okay, gathering the information makes you to make a clear judgment or to make a value judgment, and this gathering of information will help you to make a good decision or a relevant decision at hand, and which exact way you are going to pursue, so as maybe to rectify some of the underlying problems that are existing in your inventory management, that are some of the other challenges that you're experiencing when you are doing inventory planning within your organization. So after you identify the decision, that is the problem. Number two, gather the information. Number three, identify the alternatives. Okay, so once you have a clear understanding of your problem, then identify the various solutions that can be at your disposal. To identify alternatives is to ask yourself how many solutions do we have to a particular challenge that we are experiencing in supply chain or inventory management or inventory planning. Okay, and these alternatives, maybe you can just sit down as a committee within the supply chain department and ask you among yourself the various options that you can have, the best way to achieve a good solution from all the alternatives, which alternatives proves to be a more durable one or to be a more effective one as opposed to the others. The next step is to weigh the evidence. After you identify the various alternatives, now you weigh the evidence. Weighing the evidence is to evaluating the feasibility. To evaluate the feasibility is to evaluate the implementability. Can some of the options be implemented from the first to the end? What will be their impact to the customers? What will be the impact of these solutions to these options